Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Talk of the Too Good to Be True podcast. I am your host, Pascal Mayada. It's been 4 months that I did not do a real talk show on topic that we have to talk about. But this one is not no particularly. We are gonna talk about Brian Flores. If you haven't heard the news, uh, Brian Flores and the NFL are in agreement on a lawsuit. So let's get right to it. I'm gonna share it what the ESPN report said during the lawsuit. Or just it's just a breaking news for those who's uh, are not aware that that the that Brian Flores uh, um, tried to put a civil claim on Brian Flores that that if for discrimination. So I'm gonna share this this news on my ex formerly Twitter account. So we're gonna read this together for those who living under the rock. So there it is. I'm gonna share it, and here we go. So so the NFL the NFL can put on a trial over a civil claim that Brian Flores and other black coach facing discrimination, a federal appeal court ruled on Thursday. In February 2022, Flores sued the NFL and several teams, saying that the league was rife with racism, particularly in its hiring and promoting black coach. So, so that's the news of this lawsuit between Brian Flores and the NFL. So for those people who are under three and don't know what's going on, so let me explain this. Brian Flores was the former coach of the Miami Dolphins during his tenure with the Dolphins, and I believe it was like what, if I not believe 2017, 2021, 22. I I don't know, but I have to do my research. But I know it's that. But he was the head coach of um, the Miami Dolphins. So what happened is during the draft, during the 2020 draft, uh, Brian Flores, he wanted to draft. Actually, the Miami Dolphins wanted to draft Tua, but Brian Flores wanted Justin Herbert, which you can see clearly he wanted that because I think that Justin Herbert was pretty much ready over um, Tua, and when he came out of Alabama, so that created conflict, and he had that dispute with him and Tua. We're not gonna get all the detail, but you know what I'm talking about. He got fired. I believe I got fired in 2022 or 23, but especially I believe 2021, in my opinion. And he got replaced by Mike McDaniel, who's the current head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So during in that period after firing, he wanted to be wanted to get an interview, to different teams such as the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos, and I remember, um, the Bronco one specifically because at the time John Elway was I believe was the vice president of the Broncos. I don't remember. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. There was a point that 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 Brian Flores Brian Flores was pretty much ridicule because he's waited an hour to wait to have an interview with the Denver Broncos, and think got pretty much out of hand, you know, and they didn't hire him for the head coach for the Denver Broncos, and now he is the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Viking. If you don't know, so this lawsuit is very serious because, and the reason why I say serious, because for the first time, the NFL was humble, very humble. When I say humble, and I mean in a negative way, because now, now with the Trump administration, everything gonna come out the blur. Because during those time, uh, the president or the GM had to interview coaches, so including coaches, whether they're defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, and the Rooney Rule was placed. But for those who don't know what is the Rooney Rule is, the Rooney Rule and it is that you suppose an owner and a GM had to interview coaches, especially the minority, for black people, Latino, and so on and so forth. And it's like the Rooney Rule does not exist. So for those people asking, who is what is the Rooney Rule? Who is Rooney Rule? So Art Rooney is the father of the grandson of Rooney. Rooney, who passed away a long time ago. That was a long time ago. He disposed the Rooney Rule for that every GM had to interview one minority coach. And Art Rooney was the owner of the Steelers. If people don't know that, that Art Rooney was the one who hired minorities. You have to hire minority coaches for so on and so forth. And I don't think the NFL respected the Rooney Rule because it got out of hand so much. If you and for this, it's pretty much disrespectful, and for especially for the minority people, because those future coaches, they don't. I mean, you don't. That's the only chance to get a head coach a head coaching. Because if it doesn't work, I mean, what's the point? What's the point to have the Rooney Rule? So that's a pretty much an issue. And for those people who will tell me how many coaches are in the NFL, so according to which I did my research, and I want to share it right now. I'm going to share it right now, and I did my research. According to the NFL, since the 2024, an MP count showed 31 of the 173 NFL coach, 18 are black. 80% are black. Okay, so the span of 8 to 19 head coach is 42% fired after their first full season are black. Okay, that's what CJ Goodwin said. So, if you want to ask me how many black coach in the NFL have, so you had Maurice Maurice Mayo, you got Mike Tomlin from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Todd Bowles for the Tampa Bay, and D'Amico Ryan in the uh for the Atlanta, Houston Texans. Actually, Maurice Mayo Pierce was former head coach of the Patriots. So you see, this is another example I'm trying to talk about. Maurice Mayo, former player who played for the Patriots, who knew the Patriot way. That 1 year he got fired, and I don't think they are not respecting the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule and what it's all about. Because one thing for sure, in my opinion, a lot of those coaches will never get an opportunity. Now, if you're like the Pittsburgh Steelers who have Mike Tomlin, I believe Mike Tomlin was head coach, I believe since 2006. Yeah, 2006, the 2006 to now. He's the only coach who had longevity to be a Steeler coach. And the other on like two or three season and they get fired. And I thought something with this, with the lawsuit, settled with a lawsuit, and I was watching First Take, and Stephen A. Smith said something about that. It really, really, really got it really interesting what he said. Interesting what he said. So I'm gonna share this video, and I want you guys to listen to this and comment on the video. What's your thought on this argument with Stephen A. Smith when he's talking about the the lawsuit against the NFL? This is going to be very interesting to for you guys listening. So here we go, people.
That will tell you that Brian Flores does not deserve to be a head coach in the NFL.
So riddle me this here on First Take. The likelihood of which outcome do you believe is more likely? He will get another job, or it will quietly.
Are you ready for this?
Come on, let's go.
I believe, this is just my belief. That's all it is. I believe that both John Gruden and Brian Flores find themselves back in the NFL as head coaches. I know Brian Flores is still here. I'm saying, because here's my point. If you're smart, that's exactly what would happen. That's exactly what would happen. It's not to say that John Gruden is innocent and you're going to forget what those emails revealed. But the bottom line is that you've let people back in the league for doing worse. And it shouldn't be a death sentence. So you got that going on. And in the case of Brian Flores, there is no excuse why this man is not a head coach in the NFL right now. How's life in Miami with Mike McDaniels? How's that going? How's that going? They can't win. They can't win when the weather's 50 degrees or lower. I mean, literally, it's an indictment against the franchise because they can't play in inclement weather. And that ain't even inclement weather. It could be sunshiny and 48 degrees, and it's too much for them. That weather stops the Miami Dolphins from winning. That's in the Mike McDaniels era. That ain't in the Brian Flores era. That man can coach. Yeah. That man deserves a head coaching job in the National Football.
So you guys heard what Stephen A. Smith said. And you know what he said? I think he's absolutely right. You know, with the lawsuit, I think you will find a way that John Gruden and Brian Flores will be back in the NFL. Now, for the case of John Gruden, yes, we all saw the email racist that he said on his email. That is no excuse, but I think you could find a way to get back in the NFL as a head coach. I mean, same thing with Brian Flores. finding a head coach, be the head coach of the any coach, not just Miami, but other head coach. So this is pretty much interesting because what Stephen A. Smith said is kind of true. Because if you know the NFL never loses in the on court. But this time, this one is going to be very interesting because if they lose, in my opinion, they're going to find a way to bring him back in the NFL. John Gruden and for Brian Flores, they're gonna find a way to be interviewed to be a coach. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised what Stephen A. Smith said, but I'm telling you this: don't be surprised if Brian Flores win against the NFL, and not only for the NFL, but also John Gruden coming back in the league to be a head coach, and also it helps also for the black head coach to have an opportunity that the GM had to look at them to have one interview. So I'm not going to be surprised about that. But also, I heard interesting what Rob Parker said on on uh, on the Brian Flores situation. He said something, and today I think he said that I don't have the video I don't have the video, but he said that the player are responsible for not having not having support black coaches. And you know what? That also could be a part of it. Somewhat. Not all of them, but somewhat. Because some of those players are selfish. At least I don't want to say all of them, but some of them are selfish. They're trying to think about themselves, not think about the coach who's coaching the team. Because this is going to be one opportunity for the coach, especially for the minority coach, especially for minority coach for black people to have an opportunity to coach in the league. If the player do not if the player don't support that, that's going to be on them. That's going to be on the player's fault, and now the GM. But also you can blame a little bit the GM too, but especially the players. And that's how I got to feel about that, people. Thank you very much for listening to the Real Talk, and I hope that everybody follow this podcast on my YouTube channel, Too Good to Be True Podcast. You can like, subscribe, notify, and leave your comment on my video. Also, listen to this podcast on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at Belly versus PMM. Um, uh, on Facebook, Pascal Mayara. On Instagram, Pascal underscore Mayara underscore 15. Same thing with threads. As I would say, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.